Alright, today we're going to be knitting a hat. So, out of the three of us, I'm the one that has a little bit of experience knitting. Not very much, but a little bit. These two are beginners, so I'm going to be showing them how to knit. Okay, so for our hat, you're going to need at least 2 balls of yarn. And we're going to be using some size 10 millimeter knitting needles, and we're using straight knitting needles. So yeah, that's the only 2 requirements for this project. Okay. Alright, so to cast on, you're going to need to make a tail. So you're going to take the 2 ends of your yarn, and we're going to actually be knitting today as if they were one. Okay, so you're going to take the 2 ends, and you're going to measure about 3 times the width of your project. So our hat is going to be approximately about this long. I know, very technical. We don't actually like using measuring tapes here. So we're
guesstimate.
Yeah, guesstimate all the way. So it's going to be about like this long. It's actually about like 20 inches if you want to get technical about it. So then you need about 3 times that length for your tail. So I'm just going to count. So 1, 2, and then 3. Okay, so if you have a little bit of a longer tail, so I'm going to give it a little bit of extra room here. That's okay. And now we're going to make a slip knot. Okay, so to make your slip knot, you're going to make a loop, and you're going to pass through the end here and pull through. I could probably do that a little bit better, but you know. Make a slip knot. Alright, and then you're going to slide it over your knitting needle, and you're going to tighten it. Okay, so this is, oh hang on here, I put it upside down. This is your tail, this long end that's cut, and the part that's attached to your yarn that you can see, which is a mess over here right now already, is the part that you're going to be knitting with. Okay, so we're going to start by casting on. So we're going to create the loops around our needle. Alright, so this method is called the long tail cast on. So you're going to grab all 4 chunks, so your tail and the rest of your yarn, with your 3 fingers. I'm right-handed, so I'm going to hold my needle in my right hand, and this is my left hand grabbing the yarn. I'm going to use my index and pointer finger to put it between my tail, which is this part, and my long knitting yarn. Okay, so I'm putting it between them, and then I'm just going to flip my fingers like this, and so now you can see that I have 2 loops. I have 1 loop around my thumb and 1 loop around my index finger. And now I'm going to use my knitting needle to touch my thumb. So I'm going to go under the loop on my thumb. I'm going to go over the first part of my loop on my index finger, and I'm just going to be pulling it through like this. Okay, and so I have casted on one stitch, and then I'm just going to pull it. Okay, so I'm going to do that again. Grab my yarn with my 3 fingers on my left hand. I'm going to use my index finger and my thumb to put between the 2, the tail and the rest of my knitting yarn. And then I'm going to bring my fingers up to make a loop. And I'm going to go under, or I'm going to go in between the loop on my thumb by going under. And then I'm going to go over the first set of yarn on my index finger and pull through. And then you're just going to tighten it by pulling. And now when you tighten, you don't want to make it super tight that you can't maybe, like, you can't move it on your needle. You want it to move quite easily, okay? Alright, so I'm going to continue casting on, and I'm going to be casting on 41 stitches. This is my 41 stitches of casting on. This is McKenna's here. Very nice colors. Alright, So the next part is we're going to do the knit stitch. So we're going to be actually using your other knitting needle that's completely naked. Since I am right-handed, I'm going to use that in my right hand, and I'm going to hold in my left hand my work so far, okay? Alright, so when you're going to be starting to do the knit stitch, you are going to be using the backbone kind of towards the side or the back, okay, like this. I like to hold it a little bit to the side so I can see what I'm doing better. So you're going to hold the tail in your left hand. I just hold it with my 2 fingers like that, and I hold the knitting needle with my middle finger over the side, and then my thumb and forefinger just to support it on the back and side. Alright, so you're going to go in with your right needle, and you're going to go in through the front towards the back, like that. Okay, so I am in front of my backbone here, like this part is the backbone. I'm going to go in front of the backbone. I'm going to go from the front to the back like this, and I'm making an X. I went through both pieces of yarn in this stitch. Okay. And so then with my right hand, I am going to cross the piece of yarn that's connected to your balls of yarn over here, okay? And I'm going to go between the 2 needles. And then, this is a tricky part, I am going to pull this piece of yarn that I just put between them through and onto my right-handed needle. Okay, so I guide using my forefinger on my left hand, and I am pulling that stitch through. Okay, so now I am going to let go of this stitch on my left-handed needle, okay? See? And then you just pull it tight. Alright, so I'll show you that again. I'm going to go in front of the backbone, from the front to the back, going through the 2 pieces of yarn on my left-handed needle. And I'm going to cross, going behind my right-handed needle. And there you go, you're going to pull it tight between them. And then I'm going to catch that piece of yarn I just put between them, like so. Okay? And you're going to transfer all of your stitches on this left-handed needle to your right side by doing this stitch. So down in between. There we go. Pulling the yarn between the 2 from the back. Like that. And then I'm going to catch it. And I'm going to pull off the top here. Okay? And you're going to go all the way down.
Okay. Still.
We are still knitting. We have been knitting for what?
Forever.
2-3 weeks? Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna move back so I'm not the only one in here.
I'm gonna sit here because as you can see, my knitting is so much less than both of theirs. It's because I'm slow and I suck, so I had to restart.
I've had to restart a couple times too.
Jamie restarted once and then she just got it. Like,
Well, I'm kind of cheating. I'm just doing knitting. I'm not doing the pattern that these ladies are doing. I'm just,
it's not cheating if it works.
well, yeah.
Same outcome, just faster.
So I'm gonna pass this to Jo because she can definitely explain it and show it better than I. So.
Alright, so we are casting off now. So to start casting off, you're going to knit 2 onto your right hand needle, which we've already done because we just started to kind of practice here. So you're going to knit 2 onto your needle like this. This is my second one I'm knitting on. Okay. So I've got the 2 stitches. And now you're going to take the stitch at the bottom and you're going to put it over the stitch at the top. So I'm going to use my left-handed needle to do that. So I'm just going to kind of use my fingers for this because this is really thick. And the only way I can seem to do it with this is to use my fingers. So there's one underneath.
That's hard, eh?
Yeah. Push this needle through just to have a little bit more leverage.
It's harder too because we're doing two threads at the same time?
Yeah. Okay, so I just pulled the stitch that was at the top, this one, underneath the stitch that's on the bottom, so they're crisscrossed now. And now all you do is the scary part, and you take it off your right-handed needle.
Voila!
And your left one. See? So now you just have one stitch on there. Okay, so I'm going to knit the next one. Knitting it onto the needle. Alright, so I got two on there. And I'm going to take the bottom one. And I'm going to cross it over the top one. Use my fingers for that. Alright, I got both strands in there. And now time to take it off. Woo!
Perfect.
Alright, I got two more left. Alright, so we're at this part. On our last stitch, we went ahead and we cut about 10 inches off of your thread here. So remember we have two because we were using 2 balls of yarn for this. Okay, so this is the very last stitch. Now what you're going to do is you're going to take this and you're going to go around your needle. And you're going to lift. So see, now we have 2 stitches like we did before by just wrapping that tail end around.
It seems a little bit scary. This is why I'm letting Joe do it.
Seems terrifying, yep. So we're going to pull these bottom ones through just like we were doing before with our needle. And we're going to take off the top stitch. And we're going to pull it through. Dun, dun, dun. So essentially we just created a knot. Dun, dun. It is secure. Voila!
What?
Yay! We have a toque, kind of.
We're almost there.
Woohoo!
Almost
so we're
there.
going to show you in the next part how we would sew this toque together. So this end is the tail that we've had before. We've tied a knot so you can't undo any of the process here. Okay. And we're going to use the tail because Jamie's tail is pretty long. As you'll see, it's about 3 times the length that we need. So that is perfect. Okay. That is perfect for sewing up our hat. If your tail happens to be a lot shorter, that's okay. You can just weave that into your hat as we're going to show you, and you can use another piece of yarn to sew the 2 ends together. Okay, so we're going to start. For sewing your hat together, you're going to need a knitting or a crochet hook. This isn't a crochet hook. This is just a hook I found for a loom, but I don't have a crocheting hook, so we're going to use this one. Okay, so these are the 2 sides I'm sewing up together. As you can tell from the shape of it, your hat's going to go like this, and the top, the crown piece, is a lot smaller than your bottom. Okay, so these 2 pieces are going to be sewn together. I'm going to make this easier on myself, and I'm going to do another slip knot. Super loose, or super tight. All it is to hook onto your needle to pull it through. All right, so this is my weaving piece. I'm gonna choose a spot to start. So I'm gonna go through this one. Okay, and then I'm gonna grab the loop I made from the slip knot and I'm gonna pull it through. A crochet hook would work a lot better because it's a smaller hook on the end. This one's pretty wide, so it's a lot of fin dangling here. Oh. This is Jamie's hat. We are at the stage where we need to sew up the top. So you can see this hole at the top here that we're going to sew in, which is going to be the top of the crown of your hat. So for this part, I've taken an extra piece of yarn from her last extras there. And then I tied a slip knot to give me a little loop. And I've made sure that this yarn is way more than just like 3 times the circumference of this hole that we have to cover, just so we know that we have enough. Okay, so it's about 5 times longer than the area we have to cover. Okay. All right. So to sew this up, we flipped our hat up, inside out. As you can see, we have these little strings that are dangling here. These are the end of the tail, and then also the end of the piece that I've used to sew up the side of her hat. After we're done sewing up the top, we're going to weave those pieces in so they're invisible. Yeah, so you just want to make sure that you turn your hat inside out for this part. And we're going to start. So we're going to put the loop through one of these top pieces in her hat. Okay. Right, so I found this one and I'm going to stick the loop through there. And then the tail of this piece is going to go through and I'm going to pull it so it is secure. Okay, there we go. So it is secured to the hat. There we go. Alright, and now we're going to start. So you want to make sure that the pieces that you're taking are close together, okay? So you're going to get a nice seamless finish. So I'm going to weave it through. So yarn is quite flexible, so if you use your fingers to weave this together, don't worry, it is going to lay flat again. You'll just have to pull a bit on your hat to make these loops tighter.
Just trying to find the second row where the loop is, where I can pull my thread through.
So before we pause the video to get a little bit ahead here, we realized that it might be better to start from the second row down, so not the very top row in the crown. Instead, we started weaving the second row down, so right in here. Okay, so she is looping it through. She's almost at the end. Once she reaches there, she's going to pull the end of the string and the hat's going to come together at the top. Okay, everyone. So we are on our second step. We cast it on. We did our first knitting row, and now we're gonna try a new stitch called a purl. So you have two choices. You can either continue knitting and you can knit for your entire hat, in which case you will get a hat that looks a bit like this. This is Jamie's. Jamie's is almost done. You see, we just need to sew up the top. But this will be your hat. You can see it's all the same pattern on both sides. Okay. Or you can do something called a stocking stitch, which is a row of knitting followed by a row of purling, and you would get this. See, this looks similar to Jamie's. It's all bubbly, as you can see. But if I flip it to, this will be the outside of my hat, you can see that it's like your normal, or kind of like
The average knit.
yeah, you know, the way you normally think of knitting, what a knit thing would look like. Okay, so that's the difference. So you can choose. If you want to go continuously knit every single row, you'll get this. If you want to do what we're going to show in this video, you can do your stocking stitch. So one row of knitting by a row, or followed by a row of purling, and you get this. So they'd be just different on either side. All right, so we'll show you how to do a purl stitch. So I have a very long tail on this, and I just tied it off. That's okay, I can use it at the end to sew up my hat. Anyway, so to purl, you're going to point your knitting needle down through the stitch like that, and then you're going to want your yarn to be in front of your right-handed needle, so your naked needle, and then you're going to cross your yarn over top of your naked needle and pulling it through. And now here's kind of the hard part. You're going to push the needle up through, catching that yarn, and then you're going to pull off the loop on your left-handed needle. Okay? And you can't really see any difference right now, but it has worked. Okay, so again, you're going to go down through. So you can see the backbone of the yarn is facing right. You're going to go down between the needle and the loop, like that. And you're going to keep your yarn in front of your right-handed needle. And then we're going to go around the right-handed needle. You're going to pull that. And now you're going to take that yarn that you just twisted in front of your right-hand needle, and you're going to pull it through this loop. And then it comes off the left-handed needle. Okay? So you're going to do that for the entire row. Okay, so while the other girls are making another video, I am going to show you how we're going to make Pom Pom for our knitting hats. So to do this, you're going to need a decent amount of yarn. So you're not going to need a full ball of yarn to make a pom pom. You just need more than 80 passes over your hand, which is an odd amount, but that's what we're going to do. So we're going to take the tail of the yarn and you'll hold it in the palm of your hand like so. Okay, and then you're going to wrap the yarn around your hand. Okay, so it looks like this. You're going to do this between 80 and 100 times. So here we go. So this is what it's going to look like. Okay, and then you're going to take it off your hand. Like so. Okay, and then I'm going to just tuck this in. Okay, so you have this nice ball of yarn. I'm going to put it down on the table here. And then you're going to use more yarn to secure it. So I'm going to cut off a chunk. I'm probably going to do, I don't think you can see it here, I'm going to do about an arm's length, okay? Okay. So you can see that my yarn is all wrapped this way. Okay, I'm going to take my extra piece of yarn and I'm going to wrap it around the opposite way. So the tighter you can do this, the better. Okay. If you have someone else around, this would be a good time to ask them to put their finger on the knot you made. Okay, so I tied this around the center of the ball. I'm gonna hold it down while I double knot it. So you want to make sure that this is very secure. You're going to leave these two dangly bits because these are going to be what you use to tie it to the rest of your hat. Now you're going to shape your pom-pom. So you're going to cut all the ends. So tied it around like that. You gotta find all the loops. Then you're gonna start cutting. You realize that some of your cut little pieces aren't the same length. That's okay. At the end here, we're gonna go around and trim your pom-pom. We're gonna give your pom-pom a haircut before we put it on your hat. Snip. Snip. Oh my god. And we're gonna keep going.
Wow, I wish cutting a pom-pom was more interesting, but it's really not. My worry with this is that the pom-pom is gonna fall apart eventually. And I think what I'm gonna do to combat that is maybe put a little bit of hot glue or something around the knot I made in the bottom. Just maybe putting a little bit of hot glue. Because this will be the bottom of my pom-pom. We'll see. We'll see how this turns out. And we're gonna keep going. Wow, these scissors are so dull. If you have fabric scissors, those would work better. Hey, I have finished cutting all the loops. Now it's time for me to give it a haircut because it looks a little wonky.
So this is Jamie's pom-pom. She's finished shaping hers, so we're gonna put it on her hat now. So you see, it's got its two dangly bits here that we're gonna use to tie it in. Inside out. And we're now going to secure it. So, I'm gonna pull it right side. Oh wait, no, that was the right side. Whoops. Gonna feed it through the hole at the top of her hat. All right, and now we're gonna do what we've pretty much done with everything else. Tie some knots.
All right, Jamie.
All right.
You want to put on your new hat? Oh my gosh! I love it. Look at how big it is. All right, Jamie, do you want to put it on?
Yep.
All right.
Do I need the rib up?
Oh my gosh! Look at how cute that is.
Oh, sorry. That's okay.
All right, guys, you ready? Moment of truth.
Oh my God! That is awesome.
It's your hat.
You made it. I love that.